as you can see, I have a new background. I'm so excited to share. Oh my gosh. And not only that, I do now have like a cute little shirt microphone to talk to y'all with. So audio quality should be good. The last episode I recorded, it was a little rushed. I wanted to get it out before um, Men's Mental Health Month was over. And so it was my first time using these microphones, and I tried to use a camera that I got a long time ago from my parents. And so there was just a lot of technical difficulties with it, but it was too good of an episode for me not to release it and try and do it again and stuff. So hopefully you guys bared with me with that one, and this one should sound better, look better. Well, of course it'll look better because I didn't use the camera this time. If you listen to the last one, you'll know that there were so many technical difficulties that I didn't even get to put video to it, so it was just audio. Uh, Fair warning, right now, I don't know what's going on, but I can't get into my Spotify for Podcasters account. It was originally Anchor, and I was using that, and then Spotify bought it, and I was still able to log in before. I don't know why I can't log in now. It's not registering my pod. So bear with me on the audio only. Bear with me on posting on Spotify and Apple until I can figure that out. But as of right now, we're still on YouTube, so this is a plus. I am trying to grow the channel anyways, so this is gonna make some people have to hit the channel up. Those are all of my pre or my disclaimers, I guess you can say. Oh, well, actually, let's talk about this. I did move and I had an area to make this wall, and I'm so excited about it. This is so cute. Today I am a little comfy. I had a long day. I got a little comfy before recording this, but the entire idea of this show is that I come to you guys completely authentic, completely and utterly authentic. Everything is me, how I show up. And so I did not change to record this. I know I wasn't going to. And I didn't want to be like, oh, I'll just record it tomorrow. And that would have been a rush when I can just record it today, like I said I was going to record anyways. So, with all of that being said, I've also decided that I won't be doing seasons like that anymore. I don't know. I've tried so many different ways of how I do the pod, but I also have a thing where if I don't feel like I can fully talk about this subject, um, because I like to practice what I preach. So if I felt like I couldn't fully talk about this subject yet, then I'm not going to, which is what which is not the whole reason, but part of the reason why it's been a year since I've last posted. So I've decided I will do away with seasons and do away with trying to order my episodes. I have a plethora of episodes planned to make, but I think I should make them as I feel like they should be made and as I feel like I can come to you guys and talk to them about it rather than me trying to plan something out and I'm not ready to talk about that yet. That makes sense. So, with all further ado, I've actually never known how to say that that saying correctly, so I'm not even gonna try again. But anyways, with all that being said, we're going to dive into it. And I got my notes as I always do. Today's episode is about accountability, and as you can see through the title, I've made bad decisions. Everybody's made bad decisions in their life, and you're going to continue to make bad decisions in your life. That's how life works. But let's get into what bad decisions entail and how you can take accountability for them, how you can you can acknowledge that this was a bad decision. All the things that we need to talk about, we're going to talk about, okay? So, first I wanted to dive into the bad decisions that, I've made and how they brought me to this space to even talk about them. Um and I can say it wasn't that I wasn't aware of the bad decisions I've already made. It was that I was in the midst of bad decisions I was currently making. And so it felt fraudulent to try to make this episode when I knew I wasn't doing right and I had guilt I was living towards. Um, so I had to take some time, talk to myself, you know. And then life did start lifing. So it's not that it took me a year to be ready to talk about it, but it was more so it took me the year to be in a headspace to even set these cameras up, to be honest. But I've made poor choices in my social life, in my schooling. I used to be a straight A student, or at least A and B. Like I was always on the honor roll as a child. I always had good grades, but I got to college, and I had this newfound freedom that I took advantage of. And now I was everywhere. I was doing all kinds of things, and I kind of, once life started beating me up, because as a kid, like although I was bullied and I had things I went through as a kid, it was easier for me to disassociate and just act like I had a Disney child lifehood, because when I went home there wasn't much going on. Like at home it was fine, everything was cool. The only time I ever really had any issues was going to school. So I was able to go home and pretend like that's not happening. And that wasn't great, because then as an adult, some of those, everything I ignored that was happening and making me feel some type of way, resurfaces. Everything that's done in the dark will come to light. Everything that you decide that you don't want to talk about, think about, whatever the case is, it'll all always be there. It'll always be there. So, um, going through that, right? Then I'd also, on top of that, a lot of traumatic experiences started happening to me, one after the other. And although I had been bullied and I had some things happen to me, it was nowhere near as traumatizing as the things that happened to me as I grew up and became an adult. And so adulthood like really whooped my ass. Excuse my French, but like adulthood had hands I can't hold you. So it the I have always been a very bubbly, friendly, nice person, and very trusting, overly trusting. I I trusted anybody until you gave me a reason not to trust you, and even then I still like turned the other cheek. And that wasn't the best trait that I could have, because I let people do all kinds of things to me. And so with that, with all the trauma I'm going through, and I'm still trying to see the joy in life, I was just going through the next thing, going to do the next thing, the next party, drink the next this, smoke the next blunt. Like that's how I stayed sane. And so going through all of that, um, it jeopardized my schooling too, because now I'm trying to ignore whatever I'm feeling the best way possible. So there were 2 years of my life where I just drank every single day, drank and smoked every single day. Was I the same level as of intoxicated every day? No, but did liquor and weed hit my system every day? Yeah. And it wasn't a great feeling. It wasn't it wasn't the best thing to be going through. Um, but hurt, as people do say, hurt people hurt people. So I've made some bad decisions that also affected friendships that I have. And I've talked about certain friendships that I had, or like there's one friendship that I've had that I have talked about multiple times on this podcast, not going into detail, but I always do say like that's the one person I know for a fact that I've done completely wrong. And she wholeheartedly has a reason not to like me, wholeheartedly has a reason to hate me and never speak to me again. I understand. And that's where accountability lies in, because there are people out there who will do you all kinds of dog ways, but they won't sit here and tell the public I was wrong. They won't even sit there and tell you they were wrong, nor would they tell themselves that they were wrong. They're going to find every reason as to why they weren't wrong. And um, when this episode was originally supposed to be recorded and aired and everything. So since the last time I was seeing, I was also in a situation where I was doing wrong. And it wasn't necessarily I was doing wrong on purpose or doing wrong because of this, but I fell victim to something. I fell victim to somebody lying to me and somebody else. And I was already too involved in it to really like grasp myself to let go. And so, yeah, there's just I didn't handle the situation very well. And I can admit that I didn't handle the situation very well. But that is the whole point. And when you are also going through stages of, like, if you have depression, you have anxiety, you have these things, it's more likely that you're going to make a bad decision, especially when you are going through depression. It's more likely you're going to make a bad decision going through depression, even if it's as small of a bad decision as I'm going to get drunk every single day. It may seem small until you get older, and now you have all kinds of failures in your body. Now you're in the hospital or dead, you know? And we have all of these kinds of things that we do due to depression because we're just trying to figure out how to feel better. We don't know how to feel better. We're trying to figure out how can I feel better without actually feeling? How can I make myself feel better without having to address whatever it is that made me feel bad in the first place? And so depression is definitely something that causes bad decisions. It does not make an excuse because, everybody, you should, there's so many tools nowadays for us to get through those kinds of things, but it can be a reason that somebody is making terrible decisions. Um, and you can make also poor choices in your love life. Feelings are insane. As you hear people say, love is a dangerous drug. The way, if the more you feel for somebody, the more you love somebody, you can start to detach your morals. Like your morals can start to sway when you start to feel so wholeheartedly about somebody and you don't have a grasp on who you are as a person. Especially if you're in a stage of depression, it is easy for you to make poor decisions based off love because you don't think people love you in the first place. So when you are starting to feel like, okay, this person actually might care about me, then that's when the love starts to blind you. That's when love is blind. Love is blind when you are not sure of yourself, when you do not have a full grasp on who you are and what your emotions are, when there's nobody around or when there's nobody in your life, when you are completely single, there's nobody you're flirting with, talking to, none of that. You've not spent enough time with yourself and you don't know who you are. That is when love is blind, because now there's somebody telling you who to be and that feels comfortable to you. um and you can make I've people make poor choices in their friendships. Whether that's even who they choose to be friends with or how they handle the friendship. I'd say I've done both, all of the above. I When I was in a state of depression, any little thing will trigger me because I would think people left me a lot and I didn't know how to handle that. And so as soon as I felt like you were straying away, now I have my walls up. Now I'm playing defense because I would rather leave before I get hurt, even though I was already hurt, clearly. So yeah, I've made poor decisions based off the fact that I felt like, oh, this person doesn't like me anymore. I might as well burn this bridge before I should set fire to this bridge before they set fire to it. That's not the best way to do. But also didn't I wanted friends so bad that I made friends with poor people just because this person is showing me the right attention at the right time. That does not only happen in romantic relationships, but that happens in platonic relationships too. If you're somebody who didn't have too many friends or like you really wanted to be liked, As soon as somebody is showing you that kind of attention and they feel like it feels like they actually like you, you're going to cling on to that. And that is how people get used. That is how you end up um, doing so much for everybody and not getting anything in return. And so these are all things that I had to learn through on my own. And yeah, I would say I'm a lot better at um, judging people. I'm not as much as a people pleaser anymore, but there are still things I have to work on. But it's enough. I've grown immensely out of these stages of life. But I can also take accountability for all of the things that I've messed up, things you can't get back. Just because you were depressed, just because it was a mistake, just because you didn't know no better does not erase how whatever decision you made affected somebody else. So it in no means do I ever think, oh, okay, I'm healed now. These people should talk to me again. Nah. And that's okay. It's okay. You learn from these things so that when somebody else like that person that actually did deserve to be in your life that you chased away comes back, you'll be able to handle the new person who is like that or who's showing you that kind of love. um but you also have to be able to admit to yourself that you've made poor decisions. You will never be able to take accountability if you cannot admit that you are wrong to yourself first. Saying that you're wrong to somebody else, you can do that and not believe it. And if you do that and not believe it, you're feeding into their emotions. You're just saying what they need to hear or what they want to hear. And you still don't feel like you're wrong. So that's still going to affect you internally. You're still going to be thinking about that. And that's going to affect how you treat that person if you cannot be accepting and honest with yourself when you are wrong. And it's okay to be wrong. Everybody's wrong at some point one day. You're going to be wrong, and that's okay. It's 100% okay. We don't need to be right all the time. I promise. You don't need to be right all the time, and you're never going to be right all the time. But I had to really sit down with myself and realize, although a lot of things has happened to me, my decisions are still only because of me. I'm responsible for how I dealt with my trauma. So yes, I these things I'm this way and I acted this way, I responded this way because these things happened to me. Because, but that does not mean that I wasn't wrong. So yeah, you might have like you might have ran into me and I thought you plucked me on purpose or something. Like, okay, somebody bump into you in the club and it feel a little aggressive. You can choose to pause and say, uh, oh, maybe that might have been an accident. Or you just start blowing up. You just start blowing up. Just start cussing, yelling, fighting, all that other stuff. Okay, you were bumped into. So yeah, that was the reason you did that. But that does not validate the action you caused, because maybe they were just drunk and tripped into you and they're heavy. So it hurt and it felt like they shoulder checked you. We never know. We never know. So you are responsible for all of your own reactions. It doesn't matter what somebody else did to you. We find ourselves always going, oh, I'm always getting ridiculed for my reaction, but nobody's ever blaming themselves for how they treated me. Well, because no matter how somebody else treated you, you are still 100% responsible for how you react to that. So you get cheated on, you can go and destroy their property. Now they sue you and send you to jail. And now you're all, but they cheated on me, but oh my God. Okay, but you still decided that's destruction. Sorry, that's not the brain a little fried. But you just destroyed their property. That's illegal. And if more people were smart, you could arrest a lot of people for that. If you're gonna, yes, they cheated on you, but now you didn't destroy their property, and now you can't be mad. You can't be like, oh, but judge, they cheated on me, and think you're not gonna go to jail. or be fined or be sued, or they cheat on you and then you killed them. You can't be like, but they cheated on me, and the judge's not going to be like, oh, yeah, you were just hurt. No, you're still going to go to jail. You're going to jail. You're going to prison. So you're completely responsible for your own reaction. And yes, although two people can be wrong at once, two people can be right at once. I cheated on you because you weren't giving me enough. That was your reaction to this person. Maybe they were depressed and couldn't give you, and they showed up the way that they could. But then you cheated on them, and now that was your reaction instead of just leaving or instead of just talking. And so then they put you in the hospital, and you're like, well, why did you cheat on them? You both made poor decisions as a reaction to whatever it is you felt was going on, or whatever it is that was going on. Those are still poor reactions regardless of what the other person did. Somebody's initial action does not excuse your reaction. You 100% are responsible for how you react to everything. So we have to take the time. And I had to realize, yes, I was hurt. I was hurt. They did this to me first before I did that. But that does not excuse the fact that I did that. And that's why they say an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. We don't need an eye for an eye. We shouldn't be doing that. It's not cute. It's not okay. It's not, we shouldn't be doing that. You also have to recognize that putting yourself in certain situations that you know better than to be in. So there's times I've made poor decisions because I put myself in a situation that I knew was probably going to end bad. But because I was like, forget it, let's go. You only live once, whatever. You make better decisions when that initial decision of whether or not you should even put yourself in this position to have to make that decision. So, what's a good example? Like, okay, you don't know these people. You met this person. She's like, come to this party with me. It's only going to be me and these people that I know. You know that this lady does drugs. You don't do drugs. Or maybe you know this lady does drugs. You haven't done drugs in like 2 years, right? And you know everybody that she's about to bring you around also does drugs. Don't even put yourself in that compromising position to go there thinking, oh, well, I don't do drugs anymore. I can watch them do drugs and not do drugs. And maybe you can, but you also don't know if you can. You never know until something happens. So why even put yourself in that position on purpose? It would be one thing if you showed up, you didn't know these people did drugs and they started doing drugs. You didn't put yourself there, but you know that everybody that you are about to be around is about to be doing your drug of choice that you haven't done in 2 years and you've been doing so good. You're going to go hang out with these people who are all going to be doing it. You can't blame them for that. You put yourself in that situation. We have to know discernment is very important. And knowing whether or not you should be somewhere is very important. Whether or not you should even involve yourself with somebody is very important. I had some really good friends and I decided to romantically involve myself with one of them, knowing that this probably wasn't the best idea for either of us at that time. And now we don't speak. And I miss my friends. I really do. We were so close. They were really good friends. And in all honesty, and we would have never been put in that position. We would probably still be friends had we used our brains and not got involved with each other, knowing that it wasn't a good time for that. And so you compromise yourself when you're doing things like that, which is why a lot of people don't fraternize with their friends. Like if you had a friendship first, it's got to stay completely platonic because, then things blow up. Yeah, but to my next point, All of that to say, accountability is important, regardless if somebody forgives you or not. When I was in school, I minored in addictions treatment. I went to one of the classes required that I take or not take one, but I attend a addictions group, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, whatever. Well, I think we had to go to AA, and then the other one had to be whatever addiction, right? So I went to an AA meeting and I went to an NA meeting, and they say to you, you can make your amends, you can take accountability, but that doesn't mean they have to forgive you. That doesn't mean that they have to be back in your life. It just means that you now have recognized that you've done something wrong, and it is better for you because now you are reflecting in how you cannot make that mistake next time and how you will not make that mistake next time, right? Taking accountability for your decisions can look like making amends, going to talk to these people saying, hey, I know I did you wrong. You don't have to forgive me, but I do still want to apologize. Or just changing your behavior completely, taking the time to say, okay, this is what I've known I've done wrong. These people told me I've done this wrong. Let me actively make the change in my life to do better, right? Um, because you cannot do the same thing over and over and over again and expect different results. Something has to change, and part of that is also changing your way of thinking. If you know that, okay, a lot of every time I make a decision because I feel like, oh well, if I get them first, they ain't gotta get they. If I get them back, this is gonna be so great. Like revenge this, revenge that. Knowing that it leaves you in the dirt every time, change your way of thinking. Everybody don't need. If you're the person who would always be like, I gotta get my revenge, I gotta get my revenge, I gotta get my revenge, but it's not working, and you just you find yourself in this endless cycle of revenge and sadness and depression. Change your way of thinking. Maybe you don't need to get revenge. It's fine. You don't need to do that. But regardless of, and that's just an example, but regardless of what's changing your way of thinking when something is not working or something is always proving to leave you in the dust, in the dirt, in sadness, then change your way of thinking. And it's honestly, it sounds crazy, sounds hard, and then also at the same time sounds easier than done, but it's actually quite simple. You just have to have some self-control in the moment, and you will slip up. You will slip up. You will slip up. If you're somebody who always be cussing people out immediately, right? You're working on not doing it. You're working on taking a breath before you speak. You will slip up and cuss somebody out one day. You might have a really bad day and you're gonna slip up and do it again. But the fact that you are actively trying to change that way of thinking in the first place means that you are healing, you're working, and that's okay. It takes different amount of times for everybody, different amount of times for each emotion, different amount of times for each thought, because everything is different. But you're actively trying, and that is what really matters, especially when you are trying to make amends with somebody and they do accept it. You have to show that you're actively trying. So if you and your friends stop talking to each other because you were always spending their money on drugs, they have to show that you're actively trying. Like they give you $5, and some people will actually test you. Some people will run psychology experiments on you without you knowing, and so they'll give you $5 and see what you do with it. And you have to be able to say, hey, this has not been working for me in my life. I need to change my way of thought. But also taking something else I've said on this podcast multiple times, everything that happens to you in life is an experience and a lesson. Everything is a lesson. There is something to learn in every single moment that you have. During this podcast, I've learned that I I pause rather than going sometimes I say but I do pause a lot, and I think and I try to thoroughly explain everything. I realize that I can speak extremely fast. Sometimes I try really hard to speak slower, and but you learn about yourself no matter what. You learn something from everything that you do. You're learning something. The last episode, I learned my camera is not the best for recording, and I learned why it isn't because I googled it. But right now I'm learning that these lights are really bright, and I should do these in the daytime and not in the nighttime because my eyeballs hurt. Everything is a learning experience. There is always the smallest, teeniest, tiniest of lessons. Even if you just went to bed, you could have just went to sleep and learned something. I learn something in my sleep every night. I dream every night, and it's really weird. My dreams are so vivid, but I always do learn something from my dreams. And even when I don't remember my dreams specifically, I still learn something about how I fall asleep. One time I learned that I drool. Sometimes if I am dog tired, I end up sleeping with my mouth open, drooling. If I'm dog tired, I'll snore, but if it's just like a normal day, I don't snore. You'll learn something with every breath you take. There is a lesson you can pull out of everything. So you have to be able to learn from your mistakes, learn from the poor decisions that you've made, and you will continue whatever deity you believe in. I believe in God. But if you believe in the universe, whatever the case is, whatever you believe in, you are going to continue to be taught the exact same lesson until you get that shit in your head. You're going to be taught the same lesson over and over and over again until you figure out what it is you're supposed to be learning. And so if you're wondering why do I always attract this kind of person? Why do I always fail at this? Why do I always do? It's because you still have not learned. You're not learning. You're too stubborn to understand that there's something wrong. You have to learn. You have to be willing to learn. Life is the biggest school you'll ever attend. Learning does not stop when you exit a actual school classroom. Actually you barely learn in the damn school classrooms. Life is your biggest classroom, okay? And you don't you shouldn't beat yourself up about the bad decisions that you've made, because that only leads to more bad decisions. When you can't take accountability if you are beating yourself up because you made a poor decision. You won't ever learn if you're beating yourself up about it. Like, you shouldn't have done that. Oh my gosh, why do I always do why do I you if you're beating yourself up about it, you're never going to be able to actually thoroughly and clearly think about, why am I like this? How do I fix it? Because all you're doing is seeing the wrong, and all you're doing is punishing yourself for the decision you made rather than catering. Like, you have to cater to your own feelings the way that you would cater to somebody that you care about. You see your friend crying, you drop everything, you go comfort them. You do that to yourself. You know that you're dying in here, you're sad, you're crying, everything is not going your way. You have to be able to cater to yourself the way that you cater everybody else. Don't If you go through something and you know that you've said to your friend, think about how you would respond to your friend if this was your friend and not yourself. And I had to do that a lot. So, like, my friend, she can be like, oh, I just feel so bad because I didn't do X, Y, and Z. And I'd be like, girl, I'm going to find the reasons why she shouldn't feel bad. And then I'd do the exact same thing and be like, oh, but I should know better. I'm such a horrible person. Blah, blah, blah. No, no, do the same thing. It's okay. You didn't know this. You weren't aware of that. This is the first time you've done whatever it is. Talk to yourself gently. But that is all I have for you guys today on accountability and making poor decisions. Do not think that you're never going to make a poor decision ever again, because you can unconsciously make a poor decision. You can make a poor decision because you thought it was the right one and it turned out to be poor. And that's okay. But as long as you are learning that lesson and you're taking accountability for the decision that you made. That is what matters, and that is what keeps you healthy. That's what keeps everybody involved healthy. But I've honestly missed sitting here talking to you guys. As I was so nervous to start recording again, but as I'm sitting here and I got into the topic, it got so deep and everything started rolling off the tongue like it normally does. So this will be edited and posted, scheduled to post tomorrow. Pray with me. I have a really long day. I think honestly, I think I do always post on a Wednesday, but if you don't see this on Wednesday because I like to post at 10 a.m., you'll see it on Friday. I'm not sure if I want to. I'm gonna toggle between Wednesdays and Fridays until I figure out which one is the best for me. But ideally, I'm supposed to be recording on Sundays, and the only reason why this wasn't recorded this Sunday was because I went to Vegas and then I had to drive home from Vegas on that day, and I still was going to record, but my AC went out, and I got home like dog tired. It took me 7 hours to get here. I had to stop twice when I normally only stop once. The air conditioning was insane because it was non-existent. I was hot. I was tired. I couldn't do it. So we'll see how this goes. If I have time to edit, it is already late tonight, so this will probably be aired on Friday instead of Wednesday. But if you're checking for me, check for me on Wednesdays and Fridays for now until I really decide exactly what I want to do. Do not forget to follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Instagram, and YouTube at Inside the Mind of Divine. On YouTube, it is Inside the Life of Divine because I do want to start making other videos on my YouTube channel other than just the podcast as well. So you guys will see that coming here shortly. Yeah, please leave a comment, leave a like. If there's any kind of feedback you want to give, any kind of suggestions, anything you like, anything you don't like, anything you would want me to talk about, you can always leave that in my comments, or you could also DM me on my Instagram. I don't have that many followers, so it's not going to be all, oh my God, this will be fine. Anyways, I appreciate all of you who listen to me. I appreciate all of you who have stuck with me since I've started this, because I've been doing this for years and my inconsistency really sucks, I know. But since I've started this, the same people have watched every time. It doesn't matter how much time I've taken in between of posting. You guys have watched every time, and I really appreciate you. So, kisses to you, love to everybody, and I will see you next episode.